Welcome back to the Pursuit Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Rose. Today, we're going to be talking about design and the value of having a community of other designers to work with and learn from. I'm here today with...
Hello, everyone. My name is Namnso, Ukpanah. I'm a product designer working with hotels.ng, an hotel booking website in Nigeria, Africa. And then I also manage the Figma Africa community in Africa. And what we mostly do in Figma Africa is we try to make design accessible to everyone across Africa. Those interested in learning or becoming designers, but then they don't really have the resources or the materials, then we just bring them on board. And then we provide mentorship, learning materials, and everything that they need. We also provide a platform for them to connect with other designers.
Fantastic. And just on the odd chance that our dear listener is listening to this podcast from a computer, they can go ahead and follow along by seeing the website for your community at www.figma.com/Africa. That's Figma. So it sounds like this community you run does pretty much everything. You've got mentorship, you're in multiple different places, and you also run events. How did all this get started?
Okay, a really interesting backstory.
Oh, I love an interesting backstory.
All right. Okay, so it all started some time ago, back in 2017. I sent a proposal to Figma, telling them about what, the state of design in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, and what they stand to gain if they can try to support some of the designers here. And then they replied, and then we started talking. Then a couple of months later, back in January 2018, we had our very first event. And that was the event that the CEO, flew in from San Francisco just to attend the event. And it was so huge. It was like the biggest design conference in Nigeria. And then shortly after, we started working on a community. And that's how Figma Africa came to be.
That is a fantastic story. So working with a company, a platform actually. So Figma itself is a design sort of portfolio platform, it looks like. And they decided to help out with building this community with you.
Yes. So Figma is one of the coolest things in 21st century. It's a design tool that actually allows you to design right from your browser. And then also have desktop apps. Yes.
Oh.
So is that cool? Then at the same time, not only does it allow you to design from your browser, it allows you to design collaboratively. What that simply means is I can design with somebody, and then the person could be, let's say, in a really far away place, but then we are working together. And I can also get to see what the person is doing. The person can also see what I'm doing online. So it's like a design tool that allows you to work with other people, similar to what Google Docs does, where you can work on documents collaboratively. That's simply what Figma does, but for design.
Oh, I'm not going to try and shill tools I haven't used myself, but I'm always really personally excited about tooling that makes really, really exciting work more accessible. So saying, hey, this is something that makes getting into design, doing design work accessible for anybody who's comfortable working in the browser with it is really, really interesting.
Yes.
So instead of getting a whole bunch of fancy tooling around it, just sort of using this tool, I think, like you said, like Google Docs for design sounds really interesting.
Yes, it is. It totally changed the way I was designing. Then it also changed the way we provide mentorship to others, because at hotels.ng, we run this internship program where we pay interns to learn how to code or design.
What?
Yes. So I know it sounds a bit somehow, but it's true.
No, that's a fantastic idea.
Okay, so, and the way it works is you jump on the tool and then it's kind of open source, because whatever you're doing, I can also see what you're doing as well. With hotels.ng, we run this internship program where we pay people to learn how to design or code, and sometimes we get as many as 4,000, 5,000 applications.
Yeah.
And they're working with all these people. So imagine if you had to review design submissions from 1,000 people.
Oh, just the idea is breaking my heart. I don't know how you did it.
Yes.
And I think that us first talking so much about Figma as a tool and then talking so much about your work also really highlights the value of companies getting involved with communities. So Figma helped you build this community, and now it seems like every chance you get, you say, oh, by the way, Figma's also a fantastic tool.
Yes, definitely.
So possibly a great lesson for folks who are building things for designers or building things for developers. Yeah, that helping out in local communities is a fantastic way to get some really good advertisement out.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you to do something you might be gently uncomfortable with. And I'm going to ask you to brag for a little bit about the community you've helped build. Where is it? What kind of stuff do you do?
Okay, like I said previously, the idea of the community is mostly to make design accessible to every other person across Africa. Like naturally, the design ecosystem in Africa is a little bit siloed. And what that simply means is we are just in different places, but then we are not really interconnected. So with Figma Africa, we planning on building this platform where designers across Africa can easily connect with each other. So that way, I can reach out to someone in Casablanca, Egypt, and then can work with them. I can get to know exactly how they create products, how they design products over there. Then further widening my exposure in design, because as a designer, you can't really design beyond your exposure. So then we also try to provide mentorship programs because so many people want to get into design, but they don't really know how to. So we provide mentorship to that. We have this really well-curated curriculum that we use to onboard people and also train them in learning design. And then we host this event centered around learn design sessions. And last year, we were able to host about 72 events in general. And this includes like learn design sessions, meetups, AMS sessions, which are done online. And then the main community is live on Slack. And currently we are about 1,600 on Slack. And then we have other secluded groups on WhatsApp and different communities elsewhere because not everybody speaks English. Some of these communities, they speak French. So we try to make sure we put them in a community where they are comfortable with themselves and that way they can still keep learning. Apart from the events and providing mentorship, and then we also run weekly design challenges, which are aimed towards helping the community members to build their portfolios. Because nobody's going to hire anybody without, experience or without, a portfolio that seems broad or tries to solve problems. So these weekly design challenges tries to address that by offering them the opportunity to want to build more products or to design nice products or just to design products that address certain problems.
So, wow, there's so much there.
Yeah.
I want to go back and sort of expand a little bit more on something you said.
Okay.
And it's something you said that was just absolutely perfect, where you said, do you know what? As a designer, you can't design beyond your exposure. You can't design beyond what you've been exposed to.
Yes.
And I think that's really valuable. Can you talk about that a little bit more? So, what are the limitations when we're just getting started in design, when you're just sort of getting your legs in it? And then how does working with other people, how does working in these communities sort of expand your ability to do great work?
Okay. So coincidentally, Figma is all about design collaboration, getting designers to collaborate more with developers or people in content or marketing or even project managers, CEOs and everything due to the fact that you can see what somebody is doing from another place, right? And working with other people, like in the community, we try to promote that as well. Now, let's say somebody is just starting out in design and then they don't really understand or they don't really know exactly where to go to get answers for some of the problems that they're trying to solve. An example will be, apart from just being exposed, sometimes the difference between being a great designer or being an experienced designer is you know exactly where to go to get answers for the problems you're trying to solve. Like it just works out like that. Or sometimes you know exactly what to do if you get stuck. So you just have all these ideas in your mind. But then if you're just starting out and then you don't really have that much exposure or you're kind of limited within, the knowledge you came into design with, or especially if it's those coming from like a zero design background. And what that simply means is they will always get stuck or they will keep repeating ideas that they know simply because they are not exposed enough to want to bring in more ideas, or they keep trying to solve different solutions using the same ideas due to lack of exposure.
So I love that. I love the idea that the difference between a more experienced designer and somebody just starting might be the willingness to look for help or knowing where to start looking for help.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think about experience as just magically knowing the answer or just magically knowing the approach. You really touching on that, do you know what? I think a more experienced designer knows the places they would start looking for more ideas or knows maybe more of the patterns or more of the flexibility of tooling is really beautiful.
Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you got into design and how you got into product design?
Okay, so as far back as I can remember, I've always been one of the creative guys trying to do stuff with my hands, trying to create nice stuff, carving up pictures from magazines, trying to draw, sketch. And I went to school and I wasn't even studying design. I went to school and I was studying something in the medical field.
Oh, wow. So you made a really big change.
Yes, it's like I just abandoned design for a while, and then, and during all this while, I was still practicing. I was doing design mostly related to print design, and then I started working for a bit, but in a hospital. And then at some point, I joined the Autos Engine internship program. So, like I said, this internship program that we organize, and then we pay people to learn how to code or design. So I joined the internship program. We were about 3,000 plus, and I went through the whole program to the end. And it's funny because every weekend people were being evicted from the program. So that way, it helps people stay focused on the program. It also helps people take it really serious because if a company is paying you to learn how to design or to code, then they might as well just make it interesting. So every weekend, people get evicted from the program, and I think within a couple of 3 months period, we were now about 15, and then just being 15 in number means you were a finalist. And after a while, I joined the company as a designer. Although I was still practicing on my own, but they joined the company that early and kind of exposed me to a whole lot of ideas and concepts. So since then, it's just been on a steady rise.
Yeah, that sounds like a really, really exciting journey. Say, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get into the medical profession. No, I'm going to do this complete 180 and I'm going to be over here in this like training program and get into design.
Yeah.
Was everybody really supportive? Was your family just like, yeah, good idea?
Yeah, so I've always had really supportive friends and families.
Oh,
Then people are always pushing me or providing me guidance towards my career and mentorship. And fun fact, I've never ever had to do a job interview or write a job application letter in my life, like ever. So
I've only heard people based in San Francisco say that.
yeah, so I've never ever had to do that.
I'm a little bit jealous. I always have to do job interviews or applications.
I'm sorry.
So it looks like the Figma Africa community, it looks like the community run operates in Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa. So that's a really widespread.
Actually, the website doesn't do us justice because you are in a lot of more places than that.
I'm not giving you nearly enough credit. I'm so sorry. It's just a cute bus logo that says it's going to Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa. So I was like, oh, no. So just any designers or anybody who'd like to be a designer across Africa in general?
Yes, yes. And we mostly tell people, whoever is interested, sometimes they reach out to us, sometimes we just organize like design sessions. Currently, what we are working on right now involves something like we are trying to introduce a design curriculum to a university in Ghana, to their computer science faculty, and we are trying to get them to include design in their curriculum.
Wow. So you're not just doing work on connecting people and giving people great resources and giving them a community to belong to, but also doing some advocacy in higher education. So helping to change the way people get trained.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I think the most important question I have for you personally is how on earth do you get any rest? When do you get to sleep?
Okay, that's a really tough question. Um, like it's tough in the sense that after I don't get any raise, but at the same time, we have ambassadors in some places. So, like I said, that we are not just in Nigeria, Ghana, and South Africa. We are in about 8 different countries. That's Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Rwanda, Benin Republic, Democratic of the Congo, South Africa, and Morocco. So we're in about 8 different countries.
Wow.
Now, inside these 8 countries, we are in 17 cities within these 8 countries. In each of these cities, we have ambassadors. If we are going to, let's say, Nairobi, we have 3 ambassadors in Nairobi who are also helping out. And in general, we have about 28 different ambassadors. So if we're having activities or if we're having learning design sessions, these ambassadors, they don't just serve as ambassadors, they're also design leaders in their different communities. So they advocate for the design sessions. They also facilitate most of our sessions. That's how we've been growing.
So it's not just you doing it.
No,
It's a lot of really, really dedicated people.
no, so it's not a one-man band.
Since I've got you here and it's my podcast, I'm going to fuss at you very nicely. You've got to get some rest too. Don't burn out.
Yes, yes. So I get some rest too. But then sometimes someone just needs to do something or get something done quickly.
I just love, love, love to fuss at people who are doing fantastic work in the community to also get some rest. Thank you for letting me fuss at you.
Okay, appreciate it.
So for you personally, and we'll ask about like people in your community next, but for you personally, when you started working in design,
Yes.
how easy was it to access information? Was it easy to find other people to bounce ideas off of? Was it easy to find other people to work with?
Okay. So when I first started out, I've always had people to go to, and they've always been really friendly, really responsive. Plus, everybody was doing really awesome stuff around me, so it was easy to get ideas. Just pick ideas from what each of the guys around me whatever they were up to. And then we've always had in communities. If you ever look up in communities in Africa, you discover that in Nigeria is as big as ever and it's growing on a weekly basis. It just keeps on growing. So I've always had people that I can easily go to get ideas from or people to work with. For instance, when we had the first design conference that we had, the one that the CEO of Figma came around, the organizer was not just done and coordinated by me alone. I had several help from people who were just assisting, trying to get stuff done, dedicating their time, their effort, and everything. Same thing applies to the community that we coordinate. So it's not just us. We try to involve, as many different people as possible. So that's where everybody's helping out on their own.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been like really lucky to have the support that you deserve and have the sort of ecosystem that's really there to let you do more and learn more.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that if our listeners aren't already aware, like the tech scene in Lagos is growing so fast, right?
Yeah, so fast. Like every weekend, something great is going on around here.
You had a lot of support and you had a lot of help, which is so great to hear. How are people responding to your community when they come in for the first time? Are folks surprised to have so much support? Are folks happy? Do they ever bicker or fight?
So first of all, it's not my community; it's our community.
Sorry.
And most time when people join the community newly, just for those trying to join the community, and the link is on the website. At the same time, you can also use bit.ly/Figma Africa in case you're trying to join the community. So we are live on Slack, and when people join the community for the first time, and they're mostly surprised by what is going on because we have several different channels, and then we always have a design challenge on a weekly basis. So there are always submissions, going on, people sending in their works for reviews, or people just sharing what they've been up to, so other people can critique their work or just put them on the right track. And then those learning are always, sending in submissions to be reviewed or to be guided on the right path. So there's always so much going on. And usually when they join, I always try to make sure I reach out to everyone that joins the community just to make sure they are not lost or just to make sure that they find exactly why they are in the community. At the same time, we also try to make sure that we provide some kind of value, like job opportunities or gig offers to those in the community. So that way, everybody just keeps growing.
That sounds like really, really fantastic work. But again, that sounds like so much work. I think the rest of this call, we'll try and make sure it's not just me fussing at you to take breaks too. So you all are setting a design challenge weekly. Can you talk about what was the last one that was set, for example?
Okay, like I said, we do this weekly, and we have one running right now. And this one was extended to 2 weeks because we're offering a prize money for that. So what they are doing for these 2 weeks, that's this week and the next week, and they're going to be creating an e-commerce platform and supposed to be responsive and all. And they'll send in their submissions, and the winning design gets $50.
That's a big project, but I also quite like $50.
Yeah, so when you're doing this on a weekly basis, we try to make sure, okay, every once in a while, people get tired of just doing the same thing. So we try to motivate them. So the winning prize is not really about the money. It's mostly about encouraging those just starting out to want to attempt to do more.
And this must be fantastic for designers who are just getting started or designers who've been around for a while to have something prize-winning to put in their portfolio.
Yes, it is.
And I see that you all have some really exciting things coming up this summer. Do you have some events coming on that you're partnered with GitHub?
Okay, so that was last year.
Oh, no, sorry.
Oh, sorry, the site is a little bit outdated, like it needs to be updated. We had this design hackathon, and design hackathon is something that doesn't happen all the time. It's mostly an hackathon for developers, but then this was a design hackathon where we got the designers to partner with developers and Figma and GitHub to create solutions that address certain community or certain challenges in the community. It happened in Lagos and in Accra. Now, for what we have coming up, we're always working with different communities as well to also make sure that we are not just that we carry everybody along, and at the same time also to provide support for those in other communities as well. So we've been working with these guys called Nairobi in Nairobi, and what they do is they provide mentorship as well. So we'll be providing design mentorship to their students, and also guiding them into design. Then in Lagos, we have a design systems class coming up this weekend. And then we also organize campus events as well. So that's like in some universities, we have campus ambassadors that organize events for their schools. So we also have an event coming up in Lautech. That's a school in Nigeria. Like I said previously, the partnership that we have with the Old Technical University in Ghana.
Is the best place to keep up to date with all this on your website?
Everything happens on Slack, and then we are really active on Twitter.
Where can we find you on Twitter?
Figma Africa.
Makes quite a bit of sense, eh? And don't worry, dear listener, we're also going to tweet all this information out across our Twitter account, which is @PursuitPod. This has been a really interesting. We politely disagree that you're doing too much work, and your community's been doing some really amazing things. I was really, really enchanted to see a hackathon that explicitly looked to involve designers, that looked to connect them to people doing a code and design challenge. And you've got some really, really fantastic things coming up with involvement with not just the mentorship program you all have been connected to, but with other mentorship programs and with universities. What else is in the future? What kinds of big, scary goals? What would you love to do with the community in the future?
And let's just say in the future, and we plan to be the go-to place for designers across Africa. A place where if someone is looking to hire designers, Figma Africa will be the first thing that comes to their mind. And at the same time, we also want to make sure that those within the community of an industry standard, so they can be hired anywhere, San Francisco standards, and also they can easily go anywhere and still impress. Then also have time enough to mentor those that are coming up as well. So it's like, those that we mentor should be able to have enough time to give back to those that are just coming up. So that's where everybody just keeps growing on their own, and the community just keeps providing value as well. And we also ought to be in more than just 8 countries, because there are still several people. When you are staying in Lagos, it's easy to get carried away with all the activities and events happening. But then when you go outside Lagos, you discover a lot of people don't have this opportunity as those staying in Lagos. I think this is what applies to those, let's say if you're in San Francisco, not everybody outside San Francisco has the same opportunities or the same exposure that those in San Francisco have. So that's what we are trying to do across Africa. We try to make sure that hopefully we'll spread enough to other cities, spread to other places as well, so that everybody gets the same level of experience and exposure. And because Africa, they mostly speak English and French in Africa. So those that speak French, we also try to bring them on board, and communicating with them, though it's a bit of a challenge because I have to use Google Translate to translate what I'm saying, and then also translate what they're saying. But then we also have to make sure that we are in these places enough so we can actually make enough change.
What big, beautiful, exciting goals. So wanting to be the go-to place for folks to get in touch with talent, design talent across the African continent.
Yes.
And I think that it sort of serves to say now that if someone is listening and they say, wow, I'd love to hire some of these designers that are being described, they can come to your community, right?
Yes, it's happening already.
And then saying, we want to make sure that we're not replicating access issues. We want to make sure we're not just concentrating everything in Lagos or everything in the 8 countries we're currently in. We want to make sure that we're giving people the opportunity to access events, community, conversation, co-working.
Yes.
Or co-working online, at least, across the African continent. That's so exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And at the same time, it's a bit scary because of the amount of work it will require to get all of this done.
I think that for me personally, and for perhaps our dear listener, we're going to be very excited to look to the future and see you continue to be successful for this and your community continue to be really successful. I can't wait to say, oh, I knew about them way back when.
Okay, thank you so much for banking on us.
If folks like me are just absolutely fascinated by this and they want to learn more and they want maybe to get involved, where can they find you online one more time?
And we are on Twitter at Figma_Africa. So that's simply Figma Africa. Or you can join the Slack community, which you get to interact with the designers in the community personally by using the URL bit.ly/Figma Africa.
Fabulous. And come on, you've got to self-promote a little bit too. So you've got to show off and brag about you. Where can we find you online? I know you're on Twitter.
I tweet a lot, mostly about Figma Africa. And then, so you can find me on Twitter at Namnso Ukpanah, or you can simply use my personal website, namnso.design.
Cool. And for those of you out there who want to help spelling that, that's NAMSOUK, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. This has been so exciting. And do you know what? I bet we're going to have you right back on the podcast next year to talk about how much the community's grown and what's going on.
Oh, I love that.
But before we head out, I was wondering if you had any last piece of advice to say, hey, if you're a new designer, if you're in Africa, or if you're anywhere else in the world, what's your advice for that new designer or somebody who really wants to get into design?
My advice is probably going to be what I discovered that what was working for me. I'll say, if you're just starting out in design, I'll say you never stop being curious, because that's one way to keep on gaining knowledge. And you can't be curious about the things you have no ideas about. So by being curious, you're opening yourself up to gain more knowledge. And at the same time, you're opening yourself enough to be mentored. And mentors, so those that provide mentors normally have really tight schedules. But then if you are curious enough, you might find one. And at the same time, if you are curious enough, you'll be able to learn on your own by constantly exploring.
Fabulous. So get curious, stay curious, find mentorship and support where you can. But where you hit challenges, just be even more curious.
Yes.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
And thank you, dear listener, for joining us. If you come right back next Tuesday, we'll have a brand new episode of the Pursuit Podcast. As for today, I've been your host, Jessica Rose.